and welcome to the Real Biz Life Chronicles, where we discuss all things business, branding, and life. I'm your host, Tracy Fryer. My guest today is someone who truly inspires me. She encapsulates what I believe it means to be an absolute boss of a business owner. She's always so graceful, always so humble. She's the managing director of QuickMail, a seven-figure business. She's Sophie Stott. Sophie, welcome.
Wow, thanks, Tracy. That's lovely. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks for having me.
Of course, only the truth, Sophie. I thought what we might like to do is to perhaps you could walk us through how QuickMail came about.
Sure. My dad actually purchased the business in some form in 1992. So we've been around for coming up to 32 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very small little manual folding business, and he grew it into a much larger business where we did direct mail and letterbox drops for businesses. So over the years, it started really like with literally ladies folding items at tables, and then he bought machinery to fold and insert and do plastic wrapping. He grew the staff numbers so that we could then do more of the digital work required to send mail. Really grew that business. We now have big printing machines and folding and inserting machines. He grew that to quite a big size. And then I came into the business in 2007. We bought another mailing business, so we grew the mailing side of the business even more. But I suppose over the time, mail is not an increasing market. There's still work there, but it's not something that we could see was going to grow into a massive business into the future. So we had to look at how we were going to continue to maintain the business over the years.
Yes.
Yeah. So what we did is we started looking into we could see that parcels were really something that was growing within the industry. And so we started to build out some capabilities within a platform where we could store goods for, it actually was government businesses. So we could store brochures and information pamphlets for government and then ship out for government. And then that's kind of evolved into then e-commerce, which is really a growing market. And so now we've been growing out that e-com side of the business, fulfillment and distribution for e-commerce businesses.
And I have been to your warehouse. It's amazing. Like it is just growing and growing and growing. It's great to see.
Yeah, it's getting bigger. We've more than doubled the space we've got in the last few years. So it is a growing part of the business for sure.
And has it increased since I last saw it? I think it was over a year ago already now.
Yeah, so in 2020, we took on quite a lot of space. So we had 1,500 square meters, which in the whole scheme of warehousing is not massive, but for us it was big, and we do deal with a lot of small items, so we can fit quite a lot into that area. Then in 2022, I took on another 1,500 square meters, which we've now pretty much filled. And this year we just took on another 800 square meters, which we're currently racking out to be able to fit in probably about 600 pallets worth of stock. So, the challenge at the moment is to fill that.
Incredible. And I do want to come back to that, but I would like to backtrack a bit. So if you perhaps could walk us through what it's like to actually step into a family business, because I know from what I've heard from other business owners, some children might not necessarily want that for themselves. They want to go in a completely different direction. What was that like for you?
Yes, probably growing up, I have one sibling. I have a brother. He's a couple of years younger than me. I was probably a bit more interested in the family business than he was. So through university, I did some work in the business from time to time. But then I actually went and did I did an agriculture degree. I did agribusiness marketing, and my honours was in horse nutrition. So nothing to do with what I'm currently doing. And my goal was really to work in the equine industry in horse nutrition. And I got that job. So I worked for business selling horse feed, and I would go around to all the horse studs and advise them on feeding of their horses. So it was my dream job, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, but I probably realised a few years in that I was quite ambitious and wanted to continue to grow, and I didn't feel like there was anywhere to go within that business. So I looked around and got another job within the agricultural industry, and very quickly realised that I hated it. So I left that and actually went and lived in Europe for a year. So I lived in France.
Awesome.
In 2006. And then my dad rang me one day and he said, "Oh, look, I'm wanting to think about, my retirement. Do you want to come and see if you're interested in the business?" So I did. I came back in 2007 and told him I'd give it a year, and I'm still there.
Well, you're so great at it. I'm not surprised.
Well, I don't know about that. But yeah, look, it was, the family business thing is a challenge. My uncle was working in the business as well, my dad, and it was hard for my dad to work out how to evolve the business into the next generation. That did cause some issues. But eventually, and it did take him quite some time, over 10 years to retire after I got there. Yeah, so
I can imagine. Yeah,
and it was a hard time for the business in that we were in that space where we're in an industry that wasn't growing, when you only have one supplier of your main product, you can't go anywhere else. So if you want to send a letter, you have to go to Australia Post.
Right.
There's nobody else. Like, they are mandated to send mail. So it was really difficult time in that we had to work out what we were doing, and probably between the three of us, my uncle, my dad, and myself, we all had different ideas of what we wanted to do, which didn't help.
No.
But in the end, my dad made a decision for me to be the managing director. And I think that was based on, I actually went to him at one point when I knew that he couldn't make a decision. And I said, "Look, if it's me to take this business, this is what my plan is, and this is what I'm suggesting to you." And so I gave him like what my plan would be moving forward, which was building out this 3PL, third-party logistics part of the business. And he must have liked what he heard, because he said yes. And so that was, 6 or 7 years ago now. But yeah, the family thing is interesting. But to his credit, once he decided to retire, he really did take a big step back. He didn't hang around and not let go, because I've heard of that and seen that quite a lot in family business, where the owner retires but doesn't actually hand over any control. But no, my dad definitely did that. He's still involved, and he comes to work, and he knows what's going on with the numbers and the bigger picture type plans. But in terms of the day-to-day, he handed that over straight away, which was helpful.
Wow, and that shows the trust that he has in you as well. Because I can imagine, if it was my business and I was doing that, I'd probably be the one that's still lurking in the background, hiding behind the bookcase.
Yeah, well,
everything.
Or it might be that he just wanted to go on holidays a lot. I don't know.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Because how long did you say he'd been involved in the business for?
So since 1992, so it's 32 years now. So yeah, it would have been it was well over 20 years that he'd been running the business for.
So he was well ready.
Yeah, and my mum was too. She was ready.
Yes. And do you find, so having that plan that you showed him, do you find that sort of helped manage the dynamic and I guess the transition a bit better?
Yeah, I think it did help. At the time, I probably didn't realise it, but looking back now, just being able to say to him, well, you're not just handing this thing over to me. I actually have a plan, and it might not be what you would do, but this is what I want to do. And part of that plan involved the succession of the ownership of the business as well. And we talked about if there was a sale, what that would involve. So there was a bit of a conversation there that we had, and it's changed since then. But we talk about it regularly. where we're going with the business. Yeah.
That's great. So you still have that chat with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so walk us through the e-commerce side of things, because I think there's a lot of business owners who are e-commerce based and they don't actually realize that your service exists. I literally tell everyone I know who has a product-based business because I think it's so great that you free up business owners their time essentially, and you guys oversee everything. Did you want to give us a bit more insight into that process?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it is interesting because a lot of small, maybe home run type e-commerce businesses don't think that there's someone out there that can help them, but it is certainly something we can do. So what we do is we store goods for e-commerce owners, and then as their orders come in, we pick, pack and ship them. So we have clients that have 150 plus pallets in our warehouse, but we also have clients that maybe only have 2 pallets worth of stock in our warehouse. They don't need to be massive e-com businesses for us to be able to help them. What we do is we link with their e-commerce website. So say they're using Shopify or WooCommerce, the platform that we've built actually plugs in to their website. So those orders will come through automatically. So it's not like they have to manually then go and type the orders into our system for us to process them. We can grab them directly out of their e-com platform. We process the orders, and then at the end of the day, our system will send the tracking numbers back to, say, Shopify, and they can then flick off to the customer to say, hey, your order's been picked and packed, and here's the tracking number. You can expect it around this date. So we manage all the inventory for the client in terms of looking after the numbers. We can manage the returns. So certainly returns is a big part of e-commerce.
That's so good. Yeah, I was going to say, wow, because that can be a massive, it can consume a lot of time.
Yeah, particularly for clothing brands. So we can receive the returns back. We can send the labels that the client needs if they're going to send a return back. So say they receive it and they say, oh, it's too big or it's too small, I will send it back. We can facilitate that for the e-commerce stores as well.
Great.
So what we found is that we do have a number of clients that have been doing the pick and pack themselves, and they get to a point where, one, they want to go on holidays and they can't, or it's getting too big. So yes, they can pick and pack their orders, but what they find they're doing is they're spending their time picking and packing orders instead of working on their branding or their marketing or their customer service. So we can take that part of the equation out for an e-com owner, and we work with them as part of their team. Really every day we're talking to them if as necessary to make sure that their orders are getting out quickly and accurately.
And I think it's so great, because most business owners, when we start a business, we always have this vision that we're going to free up our time, we're going to travel the world and do all that stuff. But I think your business really gives business owners the opportunity to do that, and that they can hand everything over to you guys, and then you guys oversee everything. So I think it really feeds into that goal, the dream goal that business owners have.
Yeah, well, that's right. We've got a lady who does cosmetics, who is off on holiday again next month, I believe.
Jealous.
So she got another client that was emailing us the other day and said, oh, we're just in the Greek islands at the moment. So that's really nice. And I had a client, or a potential client, just contacted me this week who said, the family and I are traveling around Australia. We sell these products. Can you do this for us? So that's interesting.
That's awesome.
How we can free up people to either run their business or just live their life, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Of course, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and we really see ourselves as a part of the team of our clients. So we are offering that service. We're just an extension of them, which is great because we get to work with great people every day, and I love it. Really cool clients that we work for, and we can help them grow their business. And that's what we've seen, and that's been a big part of the growth that we've had over the last couple of years. Hasn't just been getting new clients, it's been the clients that we do have keep growing. So that's really cool because we grow with them.
Yeah, it must be great to see that as well. And also the amount of joy that you guys bring, because it frees up their time. They can go traveling and spend time with family as well, which is priceless.
Yeah. The other thing as well, as they get bigger, is, they're not paying for the staff to do the picking and packing. That's something we look after. We manage the making sure we've got enough staff during the busy periods. The e-commerce owner doesn't have to do that. What they need to do is say, oh, look, we're thinking we're going to have, this much more sales during this period, and then we'll manage the staffing. They also don't have to pay, all the wages and payroll tax and all those fun things. So, yeah, there are benefits for businesses that want to outsource to a company like ours.
And would you say there's an ideal time that an e-commerce business should start considering a service like yours? Is it when their garage is full, their house is full, or is there a time when they reach a certain revenue? Where would you how would you assess that when they need someone like you?
It really depends on the individual. However, what I would say is that even if you're just thinking of starting up an e-commerce business, it's worth getting a quote from a 3PL. What you'll find is that some 3PLs will have minimum order quantities. Right. We currently don't, but there are some minimum charges. So there's always going to be a point where it makes more sense to use a 3PL or not. But it's a really good idea to actually get a quote from a 3PL so you understand the charges and the way that things are charged. And you can build that into your pricing now. Because what you don't want to do is start selling your products using your hourly rate, which we all know that people don't really account for that well, because they're doing it themselves. But you can build those rates into your pricing structures right from the get-go, whether you choose to use a 3PL or not. And then once you get to a point where, and I think it depends for everyone, the differences. So as I say, there are so many things to consider. One, your own time and your life, the things you need to get done in your own life. 2, space. You get to a point sometimes where you just don't have space. I've had a client come to us and they had like 4 different storage units that they were using, and they weren't right next to each other because over time they couldn't get them next to it. There was just, so there's the space thing, there's the staffing issue. So I don't think there's any one time for any one particular, or for everyone. I think it's different for everyone, but it is fortuitous to look into that right from the get-go, because otherwise what I've seen is people will come to us and they'll go, oh, right, that ruins all my margins, because not that it's that expensive, but you do need to build that in early.
Totally, yeah. And so over the history of the business, it sounds like you guys have really pivoted. I know that's a very popular word after COVID. What kind of prompted you to pivot? Like, was there sort of signs that you sort of foresaw and that, that would impact the business in the future? How did you kind of know at what point you kind of needed to make those big changes?
Well, like I said earlier, mail has been in a difficult place for many years. So we've been seeing for quite some time that it wasn't going to be potentially there for the long term. The rise of digital email, the cost to send. Obviously, Australia Post just this month have now reduced the number of delivery days for regular post, although they still deliver express every day. So I don't quite understand how that works, but anyway.
Yeah.
So they're still driving past your driveway every day. But anyway.
Anywho.
Yeah, so we've been seeing that for well over 10 years. But then it's just about, okay, well, what do we do instead of that? And so what we did see is that there were these government tenders coming out for holding brochures, promotional items, that kind of stuff, and sending them out. So we started to build this platform internally, and then I just could, I don't know, there wasn't one moment of an epiphany. It was just like seeing that this e-commerce thing was happening and trying to utilize what we had, the resources we had, which were people. We've got a warehouse. We understand mailing. We've got certain machinery and software that we can use. So I think it just kind of made sense in my mind to try and build that. But then it was just the slog of actually how do we do this? How do we break in? And I think there's a lot of your listeners would understand that, you can have an idea and it can be a great idea, but you have to get some traction, and or I don't know. I think for us it was just keep putting one foot in front of the next, and one day something will happen. One day something good will happen. One day you'll catch.
Yeah.
And that kind of came for us in 2020 when we purchased some customers off a competitor that was leaving the market. So that gave us a big impetus, and that helped, but it didn't solve anything. And then we just continued to build out the platform. So the software that we use, we've built ourselves. You can go and buy off the shelf type software for that, which obviously you pay like software as a service, but it is very expensive. But what we've done is we've actually built this ourselves, which is expensive as well. But it feels different. But that software allows us to do a lot of what we've done, and we're continually building. So I've got 2 full-time programmers that are working on that, and we've got lots of plans moving forward to continue to improve the platform so that we can offer our services not just here in WA but over east as well.
Awesome. Really, really great. And I guess having those programmers, you can really custom it as well. So it's not like you just, got a subscription to a software and you're kind of set or limited by what you can do. You can kind of really tailor it.
Yeah, I think, if a client comes to us and says, we've got having this problem, can you fix it? Well, we can. I mean, there's a downside to that too, because we have to fix the big issues. It's not like we can just put in a ticket and say, can someone deal with that? But we've got some more control over it. And now that I've got 2 programmers, that helps. For a while there, we just didn't have enough manpower in that space. But we're now getting to a point where we can really start building some pretty exciting stuff within the platform. So that's cool. But it took a while, it took a long time to get to that point.
And so if I can ask, what is next for Quickmail and yourself?
Consolidating at the moment in terms of we're still moving into this new warehouse that we've got. So we're racking that out. We had to get new forklifts, onboarding some new clients that we've got. So we're still looking for more e-com brands that want to come and join us and work with us. And then I really want to consolidate in the 4 warehouses that we've got. I think we can continue to improve our processes and our systems. So that's kind of cool. But then, as I said before, we want to be able to move to the eastern states and be able to offer our services in one of the major capitals in the east as well, which would be cool.
Great. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think a rebrand is probably on the cards at some point. But there's lots. It's never ending, always working on how to build the team out as well. I think so. That's one thing.
Yeah, that's a big one.
To grow the business and the numbers, but I think then adding that value back to the team and the staff and how we can make things better for them, both at work every day. How do you make things easier so that people can do their job better, but also around that growing people piece. That's important, for me, is to do that moving forward as well.
And I think so. One of the things I love in terms of an actual brand, in the brand Quickmail, I think a lot of business owners think they're going to have one idea, one product, and that's going to be it. But in terms of a brand, you guys have really grown so much and you've kind of evolved with the times, which I think is so important. Like, obviously times are always changing in that, but I think a lot of brands get stuck and quite set in their ways and they actually hinder their own growth, whereas you guys haven't done that.
I've tried not to. I don't know. Maybe we have in other ways. We've tried plenty of things in the past that haven't worked. And I think you've got to be prepared to try something and give it a good red hot go. And then when it doesn't work, you've got to be prepared to walk away and then focus on the things that keep for you. And that's where the 3PL side of the business, we could just keep building on it. So that's where you move your focus to. I mean, we still do the mailing side of the business, right? So we still do printing, we still process letters. So we do a lot of magazines, promotional material, that kind of stuff for government, for business, a lot of unaddressed mail. So letterbox deliveries to like postcode areas and that kind of thing. So that is still part of the business, but it's not where we're seeing the growth. Yeah.
Yeah. And so walk us through, as I said in the beginning of the interview, I think you're a very strong businesswoman. What are some of the challenges that you face? Perhaps if you're comfortable to share one or two, and just how you've kind of navigated through those.
Well, I think the big thing for me is just believing in yourself, and it's really hard to do that consistently day in, day out, particularly when, you've got bills to pay, you've got wages to pay, you need to make sure there's enough money in the account. Those things can really drag you down. Like, they really can. They're really challenging. I've really struggled with that sort of stuff over the years. I don't know where you find belief in yourself. I don't know. I've reflected on it a bit, and I think sometimes it is just something you're born with.
I don't know. So. Yeah, you've got grit. Yeah, you've got the grit.
Or maybe it's that you're stubborn. I'm not sure. Like, I do dig my heels in over certain things, but I think when things have gotten tough, I just try and just get out of bed, do the thing you've got to do, like get up, do what you've got to do, then do the next thing you've got to do. Like, try not to overwhelm yourself with all the things you've got to do. You just need to do one thing at a time. And that's what I've always said to the team as well. Like, we just need to get 1% better. Just be this much better every day.
Yeah.
If you consolidate on that, you turn around a year down the track and you think, wow, look how far we've come. So
true.
I think that's what I try and tell myself when things are hard.
Yeah, me both.
just do the one thing, and then do that, and then do the next thing, and then do the next thing, and just don't stop. But in saying that, I do love sitting on the couch on the weekend.
Yeah, nice. Your downtime.
Yes.
I think it's so important to have that downtime, because what I used to do when I first started Design Studio Perth is I just kind of go guns blazing for, a year, like work day in, day out. Like, I just lost all the boundaries, but I've obviously gotten a lot better with it. And even like you said, just doing one thing at a time. Because what I do is I'd like start the day, have my to-do list, which was this long by the end of me writing it all down. And then you almost overwhelm yourself because you're trying to like do everything all at once, like a headless chicken. So it's great advice. Just do one thing at a time.
Yeah. And I think the other thing for me is I take my time. I don't know, people might call it selfish, but I have horses, and
yes,
the horses that they can't help themselves, right? So I've got to do everything for them. So I get up every day, and they have to be fed, and they have to be, I need to muck out the stables, and I need to put their rugs on if it's raining or whatever it might be. So I'm unapologetic about the time that I spend with the horses, and I think that that helps me mentally a lot. So get up in the morning, do the horses, and then I have to get home in the afternoon because I have to deal with the horses, because if they don't have their food when they are hungry, then all hell breaks loose. So, and then I compete, so I make the time to ride the horses during the week.
Great.
Sometimes you don't get to do it as much as you like or would be ideal from a competition point of view, but then I book out my weekends in advance for the year because I know when all the competitions are going to be. So those weekends, or sometimes it's like a Thursday or a Friday, they are booked off and I'm going, and there's no discussion. I'm just going.
That's good. I love that. That's really good. You just have that set structure, and it gives you something to look forward to as well. Because again, like I said, I think myself included, a lot of us used to just operate that we just go, don't have any downtime. Whereas it sounds like, having your horses have really created those, like the hard stop for the day. Like, so you see them, business owner Sophie, hard stop, off I go. So it's really good that you have that in place.
Yeah. Sometimes it adds extra work and it adds more stress to your day because you have to do it. But in other ways, you just have to do it. So you stop and you do those things. So that's really good. And a good friend of mine who is a bit of a mentor around dealing with the horses, she said to me one day when I was really, in a really stressed out period, she said, your horses just want you to be here when you're around them. You can't be off in your mind thinking about all these other things. So I'm quite conscious now when I'm around them that I'm there with them.
Actually
and I
present.
think that, that actually really helps from a work perspective, because I find, like, especially when you're writing, you can have all this stuff going. I've got to do this for work, and I've got that client, and it's really frustrating me, and I've got to solve that problem, and this has got to happen tomorrow. And then I'll put my foot in the stirrup and I'll hop on the horse. And for that 20 minutes or however long I'm riding for, if I'm in the right frame of mind, I don't think about it. I just ride.
Great. so good.
I think a lot of people, and I think especially women, stop doing the things they love when they have kids or when they're working. And I don't think it helps you. I think you have to be a bit selfish, and because ultimately it's actually not being selfish, is it? It's just looking after yourself. But I see it a lot. I see women that have something they love doing, but they stop doing it because of work and or family. And I'm not saying that you don't have to sacrifice. You certainly do. And there's times when I'd rather be doing something else, but you're doing whatever it is you're doing. But I don't know, that's something that I have been quite unapologetic about in my life. And
I've
copped a little bit for it from people, but that's the way it is.
And, being a powerhouse business owner, you do need that time where, and I love that you just own that. You're like, that's the time that I take for myself, because I've seen the same, especially women give up a lot of the things that they love to put others first. So I think it's really good that you have that in place.
Yeah. And I think the more I think about it, because sometimes I do have to justify it to myself why I have that opinion, but I think, at the moment we've got 25 staff. If you think about that, those 25 people, they've got all these people around them as well. And everything we're doing within the business at the moment is to make that business sustainable, so that every week I can pay those people, and hopefully I can pay them as much as we possibly can. And they can go home and take that money back to their family and grow their family. So I think you've got to look at it that way, that you've got to look after yourself and make sure you're okay, so that all those people that you're working with and for, because ultimately I'm working for them as much as they're working for the business, can be that lifestyle for all of us can be sustainable. That's how I justify it anyway.
It's a great perspective to have, because sometimes we get lost in our own head and think it's just about us and our immediate family. But when you've got a team, the impact flows over so much more than just oneself.
Yeah, sure does. Yeah.
And so you're also a mom as well. How do you navigate through all of this? Like, amazing.
Yeah, I only have one child. One was enough.
You're a mom.
And he's perfect. He's great. Yeah, I have a 10-year-old. And yeah, he's he's kind of brought himself up a lot along the way.
Very independent.
He fits into our life, and we all seem to somehow make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I was lost in what you said then. I've completely lost my train of thought, but never mind. So if you seem very passionate about your team, perhaps you could share with us what you've learned from growing a team that size, and what are some of the key things that really impact a team? Because from my experience, if there's one or two people that are not a good fit, it can really ruin the dynamic and the culture of a team. Would you be happy to share what you've learned from creating a team that size?
Sure. My biggest challenge, the thing that I think I'm the worst at, is being a leader in an organisation. It's my big kind of thing that, I really have struggled with how to do that, because apparently I come across as a little abrupt and what's the word? Intimidating. And I think that's just because I'm quite upfront and honest about things, but not everyone likes that way of being.
Yes.
So I think in the early days when I took over the business, there was a lot of issues around cash flow and so much uncertainty. And it's really, really hard to be a good leader and to be someone that people respect and aspire to be, or want to be around when things are really difficult. So So I've really been working on that within myself to try and look at how to be a good leader. And it's so hard. Anyone that's done it's such a challenge. But
It is.
I suppose I use the same mentality that I've done with the business. Just get this much better at it every day. Like, you're going to do it wrong so many times, but just keep trying and see what works. Around the team and making sure you have the right people, it's so important. We've had the wrong people in the team in the past, and the damage that can be done by that is can be quite large. And when you have a really good team, you can really see how they pull together, even when things are hard, and pull together and push the whole business forward. So I suppose for me, I'm trying to communicate to the team that everything I do is about the business. And like I said before, creating something that can help everyone move upwards in life. And so sometimes that means making really hard decisions. And them understanding that that's not personal. It's really about business as a whole. So I think the leadership piece is a work in progress. But for me, our kind of vision or value statement around, where we want to go with the business is around building businesses. So we talked about helping e-commerce and other businesses grow. And then the second behind that is building people. And that's kind of the bit that I'm still working on of how do we do that within the business. But it's exciting and there's lots to learn, and I love listening to other people, what they've got to say, and taking bits from everyone to and take that back to the team. And you probably learn the most by getting it wrong and then working out what not to.
And I suppose, why do you think it is that you've potentially struggled with the leadership side of things? Because I myself am also a very direct person. I call a spade a spade. So I've also had to learn how to be a better leader, because I've never really viewed myself as someone, that people would look up to. What's it been for you? Why do you think you've struggled with that leadership side of things?
Yeah, I think it's just that one-on-one, being able to talk to someone and be honest and feel like you're not hurting them, not like really, and I'll just end up saying nothing, because I think, if I say the wrong thing, then they're going to not like that. So it's I don't really believe in the word fair, as in everyone gets the same, because I think what you see is that individual team members everyone brings something different to the table, and so as a leader, you've got to then give back in equal or greater. But it's just, I don't see that as being, I don't think everyone gets the same. And that's a challenge in itself as well, around how do you manage that when you've got all these staff and people want different things.
Yes.
I just think there's so many nuances to leadership, and that for me is the challenge in it. Yeah. And like I said, when everything's rolling really well, it's easy to be a better leader. But when things get hard, then that makes it more difficult. And it's just trying to navigate that, for me, is a challenge.
And like you said, it definitely is a challenge, because, like you said, you've got the responsibility. There's, got a team of 25, you've got your own family, there's all these different things going on. And it takes some serious mindset management when things are, pretty full on. You still have to remain always composed and always like you have it all together, even though sometimes you feel like you're falling apart inside. So it's very, very challenging.
I think one thing I've learned over the last year or so is to own that, is to actually, if you've got to sit down and have a hard conversation with somebody, is to say, do you know what? This is really not easy for me to have this conversation with you right now. Because that then brings everything down to a level where they understand that it's not easy for you either. And then you can have a real honest conversation. And then you probably end up crying or something, which is what I do. I actually had someone crying in my office yesterday. And that was because I offered her a job.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, dear. Tears of joy.
Yeah, yep.
So was that because she was just like tears of joy, or?
She's quite young, and I think it was a
Oh,
little bit
okay.
overwhelmed. She wasn't really expecting it, but when
Oh,
someone comes in
sweet.
and is working in the business, and all I'm getting is good reports from multiple people that work around her, then I
Mm.
looked at it and said, well, can we create something where we can keep her here? So I'm
Oh,
not sure she was
brilliant.
quite expecting it, but
Yeah.
yeah, I made her cry.
And so what are some of the things that you're busy focusing on in terms of your leadership?
Yeah, I think it's that whole how to deal with individuals and then the team as a whole. How we can grow out the business and get the right people in the right seats. Really getting so that everybody there can support each other, that we can all lift everything up.
Yes.
I suppose the hard thing in some businesses is, you've got people that have been in the business for a longer time. You've got newer people. Within our business, we have a lot of different cultures that work in our.
Yes, as well. Mm.
Yeah, we've got people from Bhutan, from the Philippines, from China, from Sweden, like
Wow, everywhere.
Australians. So a lot of different cultures that come together, and that's interesting because everybody, reacts to things differently and
Mm.
needs managing differently because
Yes.
we're all different. So yeah, navigating that at the moment. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not
and I
it's
don't know if
it's
it's
not causing
yeah,
problems within the business. It's not actually an
yeah.
issue. It's just how do I make sure that I'm sensitive to everything that the different requirements that different people and cultures have in how they like to be
Yes.
managed.
Yeah, because there's a cultural difference, there's, the personality differences, there's a dynamics, there's all these different facets that one has to take into consideration.
Yeah. And maybe I overthink it a bit, but
Oh, I'm the same. Don't worry. I'm exactly the same. I don't know if it's been the same for you. What I've found with my own leadership journey is that it's been a real, I want to say personal discovery without sounding too cheesy. Do you find it's been the same for you?
yes, yeah, you have to admit some certain things to yourself that, maybe I'm not so good at that, or maybe I need to work on this. Yeah, and that's interesting. I did just do a leadership course through
Oh,
Modern Leaders, which was amazing, and that really
great.
dived into some of the nuances around being a leader, and it did open
Mm.
things. And I realised that I'm an optimist, which I thought was a good thing, but
Oh, it's
apparently,
not?
well, it's not all bad, but apparently
Yeah.
I can be a bit flippant and oh, we'll get it done. Just do it. There's no problems. We can get that done, okay? And you
Yeah.
sometimes be a little overconfident and make
Hmm.
people bring you problems. You're like, it's fine. Off you go. Just get it done. So
Right.
listen to people when they tell me they can't, actually hear the problems. So yeah, that was a good thing to learn about myself only recently.
Great. Yeah. And how long was the course that you did?
It was 6 weeks, so once a
Nice.
week for 6 weeks. Yeah, highly recommend it. It was great.
Yeah. So that was your modern leadership, did you say?
Yeah, yeah.
Great. And so what is the bravest thing you've ever done on this journey?
Oh, um, if I had to pick one thing, it would be take on the managing director role. But really,
Hmm.
really, I think it is getting up every day and putting one foot in front of the next, because some
Yeah.
days you just don't want to. Some days it's so hard, and there's a million reasons why you could pull the covers over your head and not get out of
True.
bed. So I think really, and I think it's probably most people who, I think the bravest thing you can do is just keep going when things get hard.
Mm.
But the other thing as well is to admit when things aren't working and change. So, and I'm not sure where that point is, but you've got to keep going,
Mm.
keep going. If you believe in it, don't give up. But you also have to
Yes.
be prepared to go, okay, this thing here now is not working, so I'm going to go in this other direction. And that's a
Yeah.
gut feeling, I think. And it's important to listen to key people around you, but if I'd listened to certain people, this business wouldn't be where it is now. So you
Yeah. See.
have to believe in yourself. Yeah.
Mm. And so Colin also has his own business, doesn't he? Your husband?
Yeah, he's got a heavy-duty diesel mechanic shop. So he's got about 10 staff in Midvale.
Great.
Yeah. So that
And
keeps him busy. Yep.
And do you find you guys can kind of bounce ideas off each other? Because I know, in some dynamics it can be one as a business is a business owner, and another partner might be an employee. Like, do you find you guys that dynamic sort of helps with the business side of things?
Yeah, I think we do talk about it. I think sometimes we just talk about our problems and then don't really listen to what the other one's saying. But on the whole, no, we've got someone who understands what it's like to not be getting paid by someone in time, or have an employee who's done X, Y, or Z and how to manage it. So we can, there's some sympathy there where you can say, oh, yeah, I understand. I've been through that. Yeah.
And a deeper understanding as well.
Yeah, but I do think our boy is destined to run his own business, because that's all we've seen is just people running their own. Either that or he'll not going to work at all.
I was actually going to say, I think he's going to be like a next level, business owner, because he's had both of you and he's seen both of you, doing so well. So yeah, watch this space.
Yeah, it will be interesting. He is a little bit of a manager in a group. Does like to dictate the rules of the game. So we'll see.
There we go. It all begins there. And so if someone was thinking of starting their own business, what would your advice to them be?
Ooh. I think you've got to have a good idea. Obviously, that's important. I think if you're buying, I've seen a few of our customers buy e-commerce businesses that are up and running. I think due diligence is really important. I think that people really need to understand, if you're buying a business that's already running, I really think you should be ringing suppliers, particularly if you were buying a business, say an e-com business that was with a 3PL. I would ring the 3PL and talk to them. Go and visit. Like, there's no such thing as too much information in this situation. No. I've seen it go both ways, where people have bought businesses and been really badly stung. And then I've seen other people who've done really good due diligence, and so been able to make a good deal.
Yes.
If you're starting something from scratch, obviously the idea and the belief, just believing in yourself and not letting the naysayers get down too much. And then it's a flip side of then getting some people that can help you and that you really trust. What you find is, I just don't think you should ask everybody for help or for their advice. One of my sayings in life is, don't ask a question unless you don't want to know the answer. Like, if you don't want to know the answer. So, because what I find is a lot of people will ask everybody for their opinion, but not listen to anyone. So I generally will tend to only ask the opinion of people that I'm prepared to listen to. And that's not saying you have to take their advice, but I think that if you do ask somebody's advice, then you have to have a good reason why not to take it.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so I think that's really important, getting the right people around you. And certainly, if you don't have a lot of money to start with in your business when you're setting it up, it's hard to get really good people to help you.
It is.
Yeah, doing a lot of learning, self-learning. I listen to a lot of podcasts. That kind of thing is really important. But the biggest thing is belief. Yeah, believe in yourself. Don't give up. Yeah.
And so for the naysayers, how do you block that out? Because sometimes what I've found is I've noticed it as well, when one starts to achieve great things and do really well, you kind of get a lot more of that. How do you kind of manage that?
I don't really get involved in it, to be honest.
Good. Yeah, block it out.
I just, this is what I'm doing, and even with social media type stuff, and this isn't so much within our business because we don't do it with that, so we're not getting a lot of feedback on social. We're not one of those businesses that's putting posts up and getting negative reviews or anything like that. We don't have that issue, but certainly our customers would get that might be selling e-com products online. But for me, even just personally with social media, like I go on there, but I don't engage with a lot of it, because as soon as you engage with it, it gets the emotions start flowing and it just
all
becomes
consuming.
too much. Yeah, it is. It's all consuming.
Mm.
I might like a post or if something exciting's happened for someone, but in terms of the negative side of things, I move on. One thing I have learned in the last year or so is that I really look at things. If something happens, whether it's something negative towards us or a client come back and said, this has happened, you need to fix it, or whatever it might be, my immediate reaction is, we've got to fix this. And I get, heightened kind of emotion, which really, is stressful.
It is.
And I now make myself, and I say it to the team as well, how are you going to feel about this tomorrow? Or how are you going to feel about this in 1 week's time? Because when you think about it, it just suddenly, it lowers that anxiety or whatever the feeling is. Okay, well, tomorrow it's actually not going to be that big a problem. So now you've taken a breath and you really think about it that way. So I think, for me, not engaging with a lot of the negative stuff that isn't relevant or isn't directly associated with you, to really asking yourself, how am I going to feel about this tomorrow or in a week's time? Because suddenly go, it's not that big a problem. It's not as big as I thought. Okay, well, now I'll deal with it. So that's really helped me.
Yeah, thank you. I needed to hear that because I tend to do the same. I'm like from 0 to 1 million, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what needs to be done? We need to do X, Y, Z. But I love that. Thank you. I needed to hear that. I am going to steal that.
Or the other thing is, just get one of your staff to do it. No.
Actually, Mav, I'll get her to do it. That's really, really great. Thanks, Sophie.
I never told me that, but it's really helped. Yeah.
Yes, definitely, because it kind of just, like you say, it kind of just lowers the intensity and the emotion that comes with it.
Yeah.
And so where is the best place for our listeners to reach you?
I'm on LinkedIn. Quickmail is on LinkedIn. We're also on Facebook, or they can go to our website, which is quickmail.com.au.
Perfect. We'll be sure to pop everything in the show notes as well. Sophie, thank you so much for your time. I am a big fan of what you're doing, so please keep it up, and I look forward to seeing what happens next.
Thanks, Tracy, and I love listening to your podcast every week.
Thank you for your support. Thanks, Sophie.
No worries. Thank you.
Cheers.